Hi there. Welcome to Exam AZ-900, Microsoft Azure Fundamentals Study Guide. This is episode 50, Azure Government Cloud. My name is Tim Warner. Today's skill in the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals objective domain starts in the functional group Describe Security, Privacy, Compliance, and Trust, goes through the objective Describe Privacy, Compliance, and Data Protection Standards in Azure. The specific skill today is Describe Azure Government Cloud Services. As usual, go to timw.info/AZ900SG for an Excel sheet where I've outlined all the videos. I've given you direct links to them all. All right, so we've already discussed earlier in this course Azure geographies and regions. Now, specifically in North America, and even more specifically in the United States, we have not only the Azure Commercial Cloud, which is the public cloud that any customer can join if they want to. We also have a couple sovereign clouds that have limited membership. Specifically, when we refer to Azure Government, we're talking about the U.S. government. If you take a look on the right side of this slide, we have the geography of the United States in West U.S., Central U.S., and East U.S., and you'll also notice there some U.S. government regions. So these are totally separate clouds. The Azure government regions are available only to U.S. government entities, either federal, state, or local. If you're wondering where I got that image, look in the lower left corner of the slide. There's my attribution. Now, specifically, Azure Government, as I said, requires that you are part of a U.S. federal, state, or local government entity. The government cloud, in addition to being a completely separate collection of Azure regions and data centers, those environments are subject to very strict regulatory compliance requirements like FedRAMP, NIST 800.171, ITAR, CJIS, etc. And within the Azure Government Cloud, there's another cloud yet reserved exclusively for U.S. Department of Defense use. Government customers who work in the government cloud typically refer to it as Gov Cloud or DoD Cloud. As far as feature parity, you should be aware that in general, the Azure Government Cloud features track behind the Azure Commercial Cloud. And I think that's primarily because of the additional compliance requirements that Microsoft has to adhere to in order to create an environment that satisfies U.S. governmental use. I've heard anecdotal stories that Government Cloud tends to track a few months behind Azure Commercial Cloud. At the end of this video, I'll give you some links to further research that if you're looking for more detail. As I mentioned, you're not going to be able to see anything in the Azure Government Cloud unless you're part of the Azure Government customer group. So therefore, I'm not going to log into the Azure portal looking at Azure Government resources for obvious reasons. Instead, I thought I'd show you AzureCharts.com, which is a collection of utility websites. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure who maintains this. I guess we can learn together by opening the About menu. It's AzureCharts.com. And let me see, what is Azure Charts? Okay, this is what I wondered right here. Azure Charts is not a Microsoft service or product. It's a personal project. But specifically, if you go to AzureCharts.com/regions, this is pretty cool because it allows you to dial in a primary region. And these regions cover not just Azure public cloud regions, but also sovereign clouds. Like, for example, in the next lesson, we're going to discuss the China cloud. And then if we're interested in U.S. government. So, for example, let me model against my home region, which is in the Azure public cloud. I tend to deploy to East US. And if I want to compare the Azure products and service offerings to a government cloud, why don't I come down and select US DoD East? The screen repaints and you see we have fewer blocks. This is a dynamic comparison. And notice that when you hover over a product, it tells you whether the status in the compared to region is in generally available status, or it's in preview, or if it just doesn't show up, that means it's not available. For example, it looks like as of this recording in July 2020, Azure Media Services is not available in US DoD East. All things considered, this Azure Charts, there's a lot in here in terms of SLA, status, timeline. I suggest you come in here and just browse through. You can learn a great deal about Azure in a compact fashion. For learning resources, if you're interested in knowing more general information about the Azure Government Cloud, in the Azure Docs, of course, go to timw.info/GOV1. For a detailed service comparison between Azure Government Cloud and Azure Commercial Cloud, go to timw.info/GOV2. And if you want information, if you do work for a governmental entity and you want to know the process of buying an Azure subscription in Government Cloud, go to timw.info/GOV3. All right, well, we're going to continue our journey through sovereign clouds in Azure. In the next episode, we'll look at the Azure China Cloud services. In the meantime, please follow me on Twitter at TechTrainerTim. You can find my full-length courses in the Pluralsight library, timw.info/PS, and my personal website is techtrainertim.com. Happy studying. I'll see you around.